Smoke drifted across the blood-orange sky as twin suns dipped behind jagged cliffs. From the crest of a barren ridge, Captain Elara Vance crouched beneath a camo tarp, peering through a scope that scanned the valley below. The Empire was already here, on her soil, in her colony, and they were laughing. Dozens of bronze-armored figures stood in formation, their helmets polished like mirrors. Their laughter echoed, distant and hollow, across the shattered remains of Outpost Theta. A bonfire roared in the center of what used to be the command center. The outpost insignia, an earthhawk etched in steel, melted in the flames. "They're celebrating," said Corporal Dean beside her, voice low. "They think this was the objective," Elara muttered, adjusting her scope. "It wasn't." Through the lens, she spotted the tall one at the center of the formation, Legatus Strix Malverin. His armor was darker than the others, trimmed in obsidian. A ceremonial energy spear leaned against his shoulder as he gestured toward the burning debris with grand theatrical flair. "Primitive architecture," he said to the soldiers near him. "Even their shelters are insults to symmetry." Elara activated her mic. "Echo 7, this is Vance." "Status?" A chorus of whispers clicked in. "North Bluff ready. Payload confirmed. Visual on target 1. Phase 1 primed and waiting." Elara inhaled slowly. The dirt beneath her smelled of ash and oil. She reached into her vest and pulled out a small chip, engraved with a Martian inscription. It was old. Scarred. Like her. She pressed it once, then slid it back into place. Malverin's voice carried, amplified by his armor's speaker array. "Record this. Let the Rim world see the price of resistance." A drone hovered overhead, blinking red. They were broadcasting their mockery live. Elara tapped her helmet once. "Execute Phase 1. Below, nothing happened, at first. Then, the helmets began to sing. It was a high, metallic whine, inaudible to most, but Elara's team had tuned it perfectly. Resonance. Feedback. Neurosonic frequency. Earth scientists had studied Imperial armor for years, picked it apart from the black market, dissected its alloys, its designs. The Empire had never imagined their own pride would betray them. One by one, the soldiers clutched their heads. "What?" gasped one, stumbling. The whine sharpened. Then crack, a helmet burst like an overripe fruit, shards of reinforced alloy scattering as the soldier dropped, spasming. Another. Then another. Panic rippled through the formation. "Shields up!" barked Malverin. Too late. The sonic cascade spread across the ridge, targeting helmets that shared the same flowed crystalline resonator. The Empire had standardized everything: armor specs, neural interfaces, even air filtration systems. It was their strength. It became their weakness. Soldiers screamed. Some tore at their helmets in desperation. Others collapsed before they could. "What is this sorcery?" Malverin shouted, eyes wide behind his visor. Elara watched him stagger, then rip off his helmet before it detonated. "We warned them," Dean whispered. "No, we didn't," Elara said. "That was the point. 2 hours earlier." Elara had gathered Echo 7 in the canyon cave below the ridge. The air was thin, cold. The only light came from a low-burning heater and a flickering hollow map hovering in the center. "Operation Shatterglass," she began. "Not a myth. Not a theory. It's happening tonight." The squad leaned in, grimy, tired, scarred. Survivors, not soldiers. Hackers, saboteurs, and ghosts in the dark. "We've lured them here," she said, pointing at the valley. "They think they've taken the outpost. They think it was our headquarters. They think we're retreating. That's what they'll broadcast." Sergeant Riker scratched his chin. "You sure the signal's stable enough? Resonance fields can spike. That's the idea. We don't want clean kills. We want fear." A beat of silence. Then Riker grinned. "That we can do." Now, standing above the chaos, Elara could already feel the tremor spreading through the Imperial ranks. Below, only a handful of soldiers still stood, those lucky enough to have removed their helmets in time. One knelt beside a fallen comrade, shaking him, confused. Another fired randomly into the ridge, shouting curses in Imperial High Gothic. Elara leaned into her mic again. Phase 2, Ghost Echo. Now. Across the valley, flares erupted, blinding blue, cloaked in EMP bursts. Every Imperial HUD within range blinked out. Comms fried. Vision gone. Then came the silence. Not the silence of peace, but the Predator's kind. The pause before the kill. From the shadows, Echo 7 emerged, cloaked, quiet, disciplined. No battle cries. No mercy. Elara descended last, stepping over broken helmets and smoking circuits. A younger Imperial officer lay at her feet, eyes wide, too stunned to scream. She knelt beside him. We could have warned you, she said softly. But we needed the galaxy to see this. He blinked. See what? That the age of humans begging is over. She stood. Broadcast that. Behind her, the ridge burned. And this time, no one laughed. Night fell on Erothis like a lid snapping shut. No stars, no moonlight, just clouds of ash drifting in low orbit, lit faintly by the glow of distant fires. Somewhere beneath that dark sky, the Empire was unraveling. Captain Elara Vance stood atop a slag-covered hill, surveying what remained of the 7th Legion's advance camp. The high-pitched hum of burnout tech and the occasional crackle of plasma discharges filled the air. Bodies lay strewn across the ridgeline, some intact, some not. Their bronze armor gleamed no longer. Behind her, Sergeant Riker crouched near a dead mech, pulling shards of its fractured power core into a pack. They deployed walkers this time, he muttered. Heavy grade. Triple shielded. Meant for full frontal sieges. And they still lost sight of the enemy, Elara said. Because they still think we're fighting the same war. Riker stood. We're not. No. We're rewriting the rules. She turned away from the field, adjusting the visor overlay across her right eye. The terrain flickered, infrared bursts, echo traces, faint biosignatures hidden in the rock. At least 5 squads still moved through the valley, clustered tight. Scared. Trained not to be. A short burst came through her calm. Echo 5 to Vance. We have a screamer. Alive? Barely. Empire Corporal. Pulled him from the wreckage of their drone bay. Send him to Base Black. I want him speaking before midnight. Copy. Elara closed the channel, her lips tightening. One prisoner wasn't enough. Not now. She needed fear to spread deeper. Base Black wasn't a base at all. It was a ruined mining tunnel, abandoned, unstable, and perfect for hiding things the Empire assumed unworthy of notice. Inside, under a curtain of holographic camouflage, sat Earth's prize, the Voxcaster Array, an improvised neurofeedback system calibrated to mimic the exact frequency that had cracked Imperial helmets hours before. 2 engineers worked silently beside it, recharging coils and recalibrating the sonic emitters. Elara entered the chamber, removing her gloves and signaling for the prisoner to be brought in. The man was young. Pale from shock, helmetless, hands bound. Dried blood crusted across his ear. She knelt beside him. You have a name? His eyes darted from her to the engineers, to the humming machine behind her. Vorn. Corporal Vorn. Good. Corporal Vorn, you're going to tell me what Drix Malvern plans next. And you're going to do it before this device behind me makes your brain melt through your eyes. Vorn blinked. You're bluffing. Elara didn't smile. We used it on your commander's vanguard. Ever seen an elite scream until his own helmet imploded? Vorn swallowed hard. He said we'd smoke you out. That we'd burn the caves, flood the hills. But... He hesitated. They don't know where you are. You're everywhere and nowhere. Elara leaned closer. That's because we're not an army, Vorn. We're an idea. And the Empire? It's the past. Hours later, across the valley, Malvern stood inside his mobile command tent, watching the flames from yet another patrol ambush lick the sky. His officers remained silent, armored hands clasped behind their backs, their faces unreadable behind new, hastily modified helmets. Tell me how a species barely cleared its atmosphere a few centuries ago has done this, Malvern growled. We've crushed hive worlds. We've conquered plasma-forged fortresses. And here, we bleed to shadows. An aide stepped forward, trembling slightly. The humans have tech we've never seen. They don't engage directly. They vanish. They mimic signals. They're ghosts. No, Malvern snapped. They're scavengers who think camouflage is clever. Who think stealth is strategy. He turned to another officer. Deploy the black talons. Activate orbital tracking. I want every cave, every canyon, every inch of this dirt-laced hellfire mapped and marked. And if a single biosignature so much as sneezes, I want fire from the sky. The officer nodded and strode off. Malvern turned back to the ridge beyond the valley. They want to whisper war into our ears? He muttered. Let them. We'll answer with fire. 2 hours later, fire did come. Orbital drones rained down tungsten rods along a dozen pre-marked coordinates. Each rod hit with the force of a bunker buster. Craters replaced hills. Dust clouds swallowed entire ridgelines. Elara's comms flared with static and shrieks of terrain collapses. She and her squad had been moving through the Noctis Gorge when the first impact hit. The ground shook. A nearby cliff cracked in half and dropped 30 meters into the ravine. Riker cursed as debris thundered past them. They're blind firing, Elara shouted over the noise. Burning every square they can't control. Control this, Riker growled, tapping his drone pad. High above, 3 cloaked recon drones slipped into orbit, tagged the Imperial command tent, and redirected the Empire's own tracking pulses back onto it. Elara's voice was calm as she spoke into the uplink. Package is wrapped. Send the return gift. From the horizon, a streak of silver, a stealth missile no bigger than a rifle, darted from an Earth satellite and lanced through the night sky. Malvern's command tent vanished in a fireball. Not the end. But enough. Later, back in the tunnels, Elara slumped against a jagged wall, letting the cold seep into her bones. Dean approached, handing her a flask. They're scared now, he said. They should be. Think they'll retreat? No. They'll double down. Dean nodded, sat beside her. You know, some of the kids think you're not real. That you're just a story we tell to keep morale up. Elara chuckled once, dryly. Then let's give them a story they'll never forget. She raised the flask to her lips, swallowed the burning liquid, and watched the shadows dance. Tomorrow, the Empire would send monsters. Tomorrow, Earth would send ghosts. The monsters arrived at dawn. Storm-class suppressors, twice the height of a tank, stomping through craters left by the night's bombardment. Thick, angular armor reflected the faint glow of the twin suns. Their chestplates bore the mark of the Black Talons, Drix Malvern's elite exo-brigade. Each mech carried a human-sized thermal incinerator. From her perch deep within the canyon's throat, Captain Elara Vance watched the machines spread like iron locusts. Behind them, Imperial squads advanced, no helmets now, not after what had happened. They marched in silence, rifles up, eyes scanning every ledge. They're sweeping, Riker said quietly, tapping into a stolen Imperial drone feed. Full grid coverage. 1 every 30 meters. They want to flush us into the open, Elara replied. Dean leaned against a slab of broken concrete nearby. We can't outrun those things. We're not running. Elara pulled up her display. A map of the canyon unfurled, glowing lines tracing through rock, tunnel, and ruin. We lure them in. And when they're sure they've found us, Riker smirked, we let them step right into hell. Beneath the canyon lay the Precursor Hollow, an abandoned mining shaft from the early days of Arothis colonization. Long since sealed, long since forgotten. Echo 7 had spent weeks retrofitting it with high-yield echo charges and siphoned reactor cores from scrapped Imperial tech. Elara called it the chamber. Her last card. The Black Talons entered without resistance. Their sensors read faint life signatures. Human voices, barely whispers. A few false readings of heat trails. It was bait, and they took it. The first mech stepped through the threshold. 30 seconds later, the entrance sealed shut behind them with a sudden shriek of polarized steel. Inside, the chamber hummed to life. Outside, Alara stood beside a control terminal embedded in rock. Lights blinked amber. The readings were stable. "You sure about this?" Riker asked. "If we trip the pulse early, it'll fail." Alara didn't answer immediately. Her eyes stayed on the ridge. Dust trailed behind the last of the black talons as they disappeared into the hollow. Then she spoke. "I've seen what the Empire does to worlds it wins. I watched it from a Martian orphanage window while ships scorched the sky. No more." She touched the panel. "Trigger countdown. 60 seconds. Inside the chamber, the black talons scanned the walls. Old metal. Rusted beams. Echoes bounced strangely. One of them froze. "Motion sensors are warping. Temperature spike." The next sound was a low, ascending hum. In their last moments, the Empire's most elite soldiers didn't face weapons. They faced sound. Engineered resonance surged from embedded pylons, tuned precisely to their mech cores. Their stabilizers collapsed. Gyros spasmed. Feedback looped through their systems until circuits split apart. The walls cracked. The cores overloaded. Then the chamber imploded. From the ridge, Alara watched the detonation ripple through the rock. A dull, seismic pulse rocked the surface. Birds scattered. Dust shot upward like volcanic ash. The canyon fell still. Dean let out a slow breath. "All of them?" Riker checked his readout. "Nothing left but static." Alara didn't move. She listened to the silence. Not the kind that follows a shot, but the kind that ends a war. Or so she hoped. At sunset, Echo 7 made their final move. Imperial forces, what remained, were retreating to the high ground, rallying around the last transmitter tower on Outpost Theta's ruins. A final stronghold. Malvern, if alive, would be there. Alara walked alone toward the tower. She didn't cloak. She didn't sneak. She wanted to be seen. At first, no one moved. Then the soldiers near the base raised their weapons, trembling. Some lowered them just as fast. She stepped over corpses, some human, some not. Inside the crumbling outpost, she found him. Legatus Strix Malvern, armor cracked, face bloodied. One leg braced, the other dragging slightly. He held a short plasma blade, still burning low. "You came to finish it?" he asked. "No," she replied. "You did that yourself." He looked around, at the broken walls, the bodies, the firelight dancing across ruin. "You fought like animals." "No," Alara said. "You thought we were animals. That was your mistake." His hand twitched toward the blade. She raised her pistol, aimed at his temple. "Don't," she warned. His arm froze mid-motion. Then he dropped the blade, coughing once. "I underestimated your kind," he said. "We're not a kind," she answered. "We're survivors. And survivors learn." At dawn, Echo 7 transmitted a final feed. The ruins. The destroyed Legion. The silent ridge. Across Imperial channels, one message was broadcast in dozens of languages. "Earth answers?" And this time, the galaxy listened,